This is a video abstract based on our study that has been published in Curr in Biology, and it concerns parachute science.
Parachute science is a practice whereby international scientists or researchers go to a different country for their data collection or fieldwork, and in the process neglect to meaningfully include scientists from that country or that nation. This is not just with regards to publication, but also with regards to building skills within that specific research field.
It creates a dependency on external expertise, does not address host country research needs, and hinders local research efforts. The legacy of parachute science in a lower income country can and does make the work of local scientists like myself more difficult.
Countries in the tropics, which are major biodiversity hotspots, have for too long been the recipients of parachute science practices, but so far there has been little quantifiable evidence of the extent of this phenomenon. We conducted a systematic bibliographic research over the last 50 years, focusing specifically on coral reef biodiversity-related studies, and we used publication-related metrics as a proxy for effective scientist-to-scientist communication. We then focused specifically on 3 countries, that is Indonesia, Australia and Philippines. It's also an interesting comparison because Australia is classed as a high-income country, while Philippines and Indonesia are classed as middle to lower-income countries. We found that 40% of all publications over the last 50 years in the Philippines and Indonesia did not contain any host nation scientists, while the respective figure for Australia was half that. In addition, we also checked research leadership, which is defined as the number of publications which do have a first and a last author from the host nation country. And we did find that in the case of Australia, this was quite high, almost 70%, but comparatively it was much lower for Indonesia and Philippines, where it was between 30 and 40%. We then wanted to assess the number of publications that did mention a research permit. The reason why a research permit is important to mention is because it's a prerequisite to be able to conduct fieldwork in the exclusive economic zone of any country. We found that only 10 to 25% of all articles published in the last 50 years did mention a research permit number. Overall, our results indicate that parachute science practices are more common in lower to middle income nations such as the Philippines and Indonesia, but less common in high-income nations such as Australia. We end up our work by making a set of recommendations aimed particularly at publishers and researchers that conduct fieldwork in other countries.
We recommend the following. Find academic collaborators in host country institutions with a national reach or scope. Liaise with government funding bodies of the host country. These can connect suitable collaborators, especially those with a track record for delivering on research grants. Develop a joint research agenda. Make this agenda long-term to allow the host country scientists to develop their capabilities to be equal partners. Engage with the next generation of researchers. Share academic literature with your research partners in lower-income countries. Know the regulatory landscape. You'll find regulatory agencies in host countries are more likely to issue permits to research projects where foreign and local scientists are equal partners. Journals should make it mandatory for authors to provide research permit numbers and human ethics permit numbers.
Those recommendations are particularly aimed at researchers and publishers. However, we do recognize that other sectors, such as academia, research institutions, funding bodies, and ethics committees, do also have to make some changes because at the moment they have very few checks and balances in place that will ensure that parachute science practices are eradicated.
I think most scientists that live in small island states or areas around the world that perhaps haven't had access to funding when it comes to science are affected by parachute science. It is clearly something that we need to work towards as a community, as a science community, to stop.